Hey everybody, Zian over here from Nintendo Life. So these days when it comes to buying physical goods and products, it feels like we have less and less options when it comes to buying them in person. A lot of people are choosing to open online stores and start their own businesses online instead of doing them in strip stores or shopping malls or buying their own building and starting up a shop. It's just a lot easier to do all of that stuff online, but it's really not the same experience. Sure, it can be faster and you don't have to talk to people really when you do it online, but there is some sort of magic about browsing a store and picking up an object off of a shelf and looking at it and deciding then and there if you want it or not, or learning more about it in person. You may discover something that you never knew you wanted, or you'll learn that you actually don't want this item, and then you don't have to waste the dollars that it would cost to ship it and the labor and the resources in general. But now the physical video game producer Limited Run Games have opened up their own brick and mortar shop, a physical store. And this isn't a pop-up shop. This isn't a limited time deal. This store is here to stay. Limited Run flew me all the way out to their grand opening in Cary, North Carolina. And let me tell you, it is way more than just another game shop. So you know that paper cup that we used to see everywhere in the 90s? It would be at ice cream shops, pizza places, restaurants. It was everywhere. The Limited Run retail game shop, basically, it looks like they took that cup, the idea of that cup, the color scheme, everything, and then they said, let's take everything that made the game stores back in the day great and blend it, just mix it up in a blender with that. It's beautiful. It is legitimately a sight to see. The attention to detail from everything was complete. It was ridiculous. It's insane how much effort they put into the smallest things of the store. Everything was so meticulously crafted from legitimately the top to the bottom. So much of our world revolves just around the internet these days with advertisements and interactions and everything. But this store is all about the fun that you can have without the internet being attached to you. They have a crane machine in there with plush toys that were created exclusively for the crane machine that are based on the Shantae series. They had transformation plushies of the elephant form and the monkey form of Shantae. And I saw tons of people winning the crane machine too. It wasn't like it was rigged to make people lose all the time. I didn't win even though I tried 5 times. The carpet was a custom pattern that they had designed that looked like something that you would have found in the 90s, but was its specific own thing. There's neon lights that flow all the way around the upper parts of the wall, like close to the ceiling, that are blue and pink. And they gave the store like just a really cool look. And my favorite part about that was as I would pick up games off the shelf and look at them, I noticed that the lights, the neon lights, would reflect on the games. And it was almost like everything that was in the store was a part. It was a special thing. I was sad that when I took my games home that they didn't still reflect like they did there, which I know that's impossible. It's not gonna work that way. It just was, there was something really special about being in that environment. There were tons of different windows in the store as well, but most of them had like a pink light filter over them. So all of the light that was actually coming into the store was this pinkish hue. And I was kind of worried that it was going to be a bit too dark looking at products and trying to read things, but it was actually pretty good. They did have track lighting on the ceiling, and that was just standard lights. It wasn't pink, so it wasn't difficult to read. There were also CRT Classic tube monitors like this that they had up in the corners of the room that were playing old video game advertisements. I remember seeing a Power Stone one, there was a Shenmue one. There was even a classic, I think it was like a 1990s or 1980s video that video game store employees would watch on how to sell Nintendo products to customers. Or maybe it was a repair store video. I can't remember exactly. I didn't watch the whole thing there, but it was super cool that they had those things up playing on the screens. There's even a custom soundtrack that plays over the speakers in the store that they had designed. The soundtrack wasn't customly like mixed. They didn't curate songs for this. They had music, they commissioned music for the store to be played, and then they actually had that soundtrack for sale in the store. Now, unfortunately, I picked it up and I don't remember who did the music for it, but it completely matched the tone and the feel of the store. At the beginning of the day, Josh, the owner, he even popped a bag of popcorn and walked around the store and fluffed it around in an attempt to try to make it smell like a Blockbuster or a Hollywood Video or something. I don't think it really worked, but it was a good attempt at least, and maybe they'll get a popcorn machine in there at some point. It There's so many little things that they're sinking into the store to try to make it something special, and we don't have places like this anymore. I mean, yes, of course, I bet there will be people watching this video that say that they've been to an arcade or a video game store that does things like this, but to see this place do so much good in one go it's really cool. Now, as far as what the store was actually stocking, they were carrying a number of different products. They had a bunch of limited run video games, but they also had a bunch of other things too that weren't necessarily their own either. Behind the cash wrap, they had a bunch of trading card booster packs that were ranging anywhere from the Super Mario Bros. Movie to Japanese Donkey Kong booster packs. They even had something from Donkey Kong 64 that I've never seen before, Fire Emblem Cypher Japanese import packs. There were Pokemon packs, there were Yu-Gi-Oh packs, it was all sorts of stuff. Nintendogs packs even, now that I remember. Then right next to that, they had a section with books. They had a bunch of boss fight books there. They also had soundtracks there too. They had CDs and vinyl. They also had some plush toys, some limited run t-shirts. They had a little section with a bunch of different like keychains and stickers and pins and things like that too that were limited run games items, and they had some other things in there too. They also outside had like one of those old kind of like a sticker trade like vending machine, if you remember those. I mean, like you still see them in gas stations and restaurants, but they used to be really popular in arcades and bowling alleys. You'd put some quarters in and you'd push it in and you get a little paper tray that came out with some cards or something like that in it. Well, they're doing that with their own limited run trading cards as well. Now, as far as the video games themselves went, limited run had a ton of their own stuff there. So if you're not familiar with limited run games, what they're known for is making limited editions of video games. Take, for example, the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World video game. They made that into a physical edition that will live on for, maybe not forever, but for a long time. If it ever gets pulled from online stores, we will always have a physical edition that we can buy on eBay or trade amongst ourselves or something like that. They've produced it and it's there. Now, sometimes they'll produce games in super limited quantities and they'll do like 3,000 or 5,000, but more recently what they've been doing is they've been doing things where they'll produce a game for a set amount of time, allowing as many people that want to order it during a set window. But what makes that a little interesting and kind of tough is that a lot of companies that make physical video games, like like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, and I'm just using them as examples. I don't know the specifics, but let's say Nintendo here. If you want to get a physical video game made with them, they might require you to make them in batch quantities of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, or 2,500 batch packs or something like that. So if Limited Run Games gets an order of 8,001 units of a video game, that means that they might have to order 9,000 or 10,000 copies or something like that. But I know they also order some extras in case if something needs to be returned, if something's damaged. And then after so much time, they might realize that they don't necessarily need those anymore and can get rid of them. So when they open up the store, they had tons of physical copies of games that have been long sold out online that have been selling for tons of money. They had Yooka-Laylee sitting on the shelf, they had Celeste, they had tons of things that people have been wanting for years but haven't been able to buy it anymore because Limited Run wasn't selling it online anymore. Of course, as you can imagine, the line to get in the store was insane. People had been lining up for hours, there were even some people there overnight. It was like a Black Friday style level of intensity of waiting in line. And I understand that. Like I've never slept over for Black Friday, but I've definitely waited in line for like longer than 5 hours for something. But they also had a cool method to try and prevent people from scalping games too. You could only buy like one hot ticketed item, which I don't remember all of the items that were labeled as hot ticket things, but basically what I can tell you is that from the beginning, from the opening of the store to the end, there were still tons of products in there. And they actually, within like the 12 hours that they were open, they got everybody into the store that was waiting in line. Now, I bet some people were like, screw this, I'm not waiting in line, you know, and eventually got out or had to go to work or something. But by the end of the day, like around 8 o'clock, there was no line anymore. Like everybody really got in. So the other thing I forgot to mention is that all of their games were selling for their standard MSRP prices as well, even if it was selling for way, way more online. So for example, I am a big fan of Celeste. Never bought it when it first came out physically because I was like, oh, I'll get it eventually. Best Buy has it, blah, blah, blah. I never did. And now it's worth like over $100 online. But now I ended up picking up a copy and it was $35. And yes, $35 is more than it is digitally, but I want to be able to have this game forever. I loved it. And I want to be able to lend this to somebody else so they can play it. I want to have it on the shelf so I can remember it. I want to read the manual that's in here. And lots of other people got to pick it up too. Now, another thing that I can't remember if I mentioned already or not is that they have pre-owned games too. And the selection was like kind of hit or miss, but surprisingly, they had a lot of really impressive stuff for only being open that one day. They were taking trade-ins the day before, and they were like putting stuff out on the shelf like literally that Friday while I was there getting footage. But they had a lot of really cool stuff in there, and the prices were actually super fair. Now, I've been to a lot of game stores in big cities especially where because it's a big city, or maybe they do it because they have to, because the rent is more. I'm not sure. I can't speak. I shouldn't try to speak for the stores. I've been to a lot of places where they'll charge the highest internet price possible, or even above the price of what you'd find on the internet. And maybe they're trying to charge for the convenience of buying it then and there, but Limited Run Store was not doing that at all. You'd still see stuff like they had a copy of Pokemon Fire Red on Game Boy Advance, but it was $225, I think. Maybe it was $250. And if you look online, like even on something like Price Charting, which is a website that you can look up video game prices. This had the box and manual, I think, and probably the wireless transmitter too. This game price charts for like $270 or it's almost at $300. And if you look on eBay, completed listings of the game, it's actually selling for anywhere from $250 all the way up to $500, depending on if it's like a player's choice copy or not, if it has the wireless transmitter or not. There are all sorts of factors. And they were charging on the low end of that game. And I'm thinking they must be looking at GameStop's prices for some things as well, because they actually had snipper clips on the shelf for $8.99. And that game on eBay or even on Price Charting shows that it sells for more around $20, $25. But the thing about that though is that they are trying to sell their stuff cheaper. They're not out there to try and take advantage of the customer. They're trying to create a special place where people can come in and buy video games and trade in their stuff and talk about whatever they want and just soak in the surroundings, the feelings of being in a place from back in the day, but in the modern age instead. They also had a bunch of import games filtered into their pre-owned section as well, and the prices on those were super fair too. There was an N64 complete in box copy of a Tamagotchi game for $10. It looked in super nice shape, had a plastic clamshell case on it. It was amazing. And that's another thing that I really liked, was all of their pre-owned games actually had like plastic wrap over them, on top of them to keep them safe, and then the price stickers were on top. So then you didn't have to worry about like buying a game and then having to get home and rip the sticker off and then the sticker's all stuck over the package. Like there were so many things that I feel like this store really thought about, and they didn't skimp on it, you know, like they didn't cut corners. They really are trying to do everything the best way they can. Limited Run also talked about the fact that if they end up selling any of their own games pre-owned, if someone trades in Celeste or Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, I think it maybe is, anything that's selling for tons of money online, Limited Run will sell their own pre-owned games for less than MSRP. They're never going to sell them for more than what they originally sold them for. And I appreciate that a lot. I think that's an incredible way to do it. Now, the flip side of that is they probably don't buy them for a lot. So if you ever want to take a game into them that they created, they probably won't buy it for much. So probably going to be unlikely to see a lot of Limited Run games pre-owned in there for sale. But it is possible that employees or local customers or people that just want to be kind and don't really care, maybe we'll still sell them their games. So I think it's going to be the kind of thing where you never know what you're going to find when you walk into that store. You could be surprised. That's like you might walk in and find something that you've been looking for forever that Limited Run is now out of in the new section, but they have it pre-owned and it's a price that you can get it for, you know? Now, being somebody who worked in retail for 10 years, who worked at GameStop, who worked at a local mom and pop shop doing video game stuff, there are a lot of things that I looked at and saw that they did right. And I think anybody who also like works in retail will walk into the store and have lots of things that they appreciate. But there were some things that I would also love to see them do or maybe do differently in the future. Now, it really depends on the game, but some of Limited Run's video game releases don't always have screenshots and descriptions on the back of the box. And with how many physical editions of video games Limited Run does, I wouldn't expect their employees to realistically know everything about all of their games. And even so, you know, an employee could go look on a computer or something like that, or you could look it up on your phone. But I think a fun way to kind of avoid that problem would be as if they had a kiosk in the store that you could maybe scan a game in and it would show something, you know, show a trailer or show some screenshots that way. Or if they had like a binder on the counter that you could walk up to and browse through and it had maybe a page for every single game in the limited run library. They could even have like what Software Etc., Babbage's, EB Games, and GameStop would used to do. Even some GameStops probably still do this. They would also have a binder on the counter that showed all of the games that were coming out soon, and it was like a pre-order list. So I remember going back in the day and looking through that list and finding out what games I wanted to pre-order. You would get lists of like, there was a section for pre-order bonuses. So if you pre-ordered a game, you'd get, you know, a free t-shirt or a demo disc, or you'd get The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on N64, but on GameCube if you pre-ordered Wind Waker, because something like that would get them even closer to that classic feeling. A lot of this store really felt like you don't need to have your phone in here. I think having your camera or your phone is cool, because like the store is just a photo op heaven. Like you absolutely will want to take pictures of everything and have pictures taken of you in the store, because it's a really cool place to be. But you're not going to be like looking up things on the internet while you're in there. Well, maybe prices, I guess, if you want to see if you're paying fair prices and stuff. But what I've tried to say is that you're not really going to be on your phone when you're in there. Everything that you need, you want to be available in the store. I can tell that the store wants to be a place that existed before the internet was a thing, with the trailers that play on the TVs in the corners, with the kiosks that allow you to play River City Girls and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World multiplayer. I think a little binder like that on the counter would help sell that idea even more. A customer could read the binder and then an employee could spew whatever knowledge they know about the video game that the customer is curious about, or maybe they'll find something that they never even knew that they would want to play. I think it'd be really cool if Limited Run found a way to incorporate a membership card too. You know, like this I still keep in my wallet these days, even though it does nothing. It's really fun. It's my old Nintendo N Crew Walmart membership card. Has my chicken scratch childhood handwriting on it, which actually might be better than my current modern day handwriting, but oh well. But they could have a membership card that gives you discounts once you spend a certain amount of money, or maybe if you buy 10 games, you get one free. It doesn't have to be any game in the store. Maybe they have a section of mystery games. You know, I feel like there has to be some way that they can incorporate a membership card. It feels like a missed opportunity, if not eventually. And I love the Limited Run Games physical kiosks that they have in the store too, but an arcade cabinet of some kind would really just icing on the cake. Now, one of the problems that will definitely come up for the store is that Limited Run Games doesn't reprint games, so eventually they're going to run out of a lot of the really insane, crazy stuff that people are losing their minds over. And so what then? You know, what are their shelves going to look like? Because their shelves currently have tons of big collector's edition items and they're overflowing with stuff. And I wonder what it's going to look like a year down the road. Now, even though they say they don't reprint games, I think that is kind of a gray area. I haven't confirmed this with them, and maybe I should have asked for specifics before, but take, for example, Shantae and the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the video game. Both of those, they actually had special exclusive editions of at the Limited Run store. They had Game Boy big box versions of that and like a Super Nintendo style box with alternate cover art, at least on the Scott Pilgrim game. Yes, I imagine the cartridges were probably the same on those. The box arts were different, and maybe there is a gray area where they can eventually reprint games with different box arts depending on the companies that they're working with. I'm not really sure, but maybe having this physical store means that maybe down the road we'll see another version of Celeste come out that's a Limited Run Games retail exclusive. But I also think there's like a part of the internet that will freak out about the thought of that, because their Limited Run is making their stuff not rare anymore. And honestly, like, I'm happy to have a copy of Celeste on Switch. I just want to be able to have a physical copy of this game that I can share with people and play and have on my shelf. And yeah, it's like, it's crazy cool that it's expensive, but that's, to me, and I think to a lot of people, that's not the point. We just want to be able to have physical versions of the games that we love. And so if they start reprinting their games just like straight up, that's not okay, because they say they don't do that. But maybe there is room for them to reprint them in different capacities as different editions. And I think if that's what they're planning on doing, then maybe they'll need to change up their branding a little bit. I'm not really exactly sure, but I'm excited to see what they can do with this store. If they can find it feasible to create cool special editions. They also don't really carry new video games from companies like Nintendo or like any like big publishers necessarily besides themselves. They do work with a few other companies to carry some things, but I'm curious if, you know, if eventually you'll be able to walk into Limited Run and buy a brand new copy of the latest Zelda or Mario game or something like that, or Elden Ring 2 someday, you know? Like, is that gonna be a thing? Because I hope so. I would love for this store to be a place where you can just walk in and get whatever you want. A few really minor things too was that the display cases that had their retro games in it were a little hard to see. It was a little dark in there because they didn't actually have lights inside the case. And I do appreciate that too, because I think depending on the lighting, you can actually sun fade your games if they're directly touching the games for days and days and days, especially in a retail setting. But I think like finding some way to kind of light those cases up a little bit would be really nice. And with their import games, some people will know if a North American Nintendo 64 can play a Japanese copy of Mario Party 2. If someone's in there shopping it for a gift, or if they just are unaware, you know, they might buy those games and not know if they're gonna work. So I think putting some kind of labels or having like a cheat sheet that says like, you know, region locking compatibility, just so that way they don't buy something and take it home and not have it work. And I bet the employees will know to tell them that it's a Japanese game or not, or from some other region. But having that on the box would be really, really helpful for people that don't want to ask, or if an employee just forgets to tell them, and because accidents are going to happen. Now, the grand opening was super fun. I mean, there were some flaws here and there, like the trading card vending machine ended up jamming up pretty early on in the day, and the line took a long time to get through. But for all of the effort that all of the employees put into this store, there were so many people running around trying to help people find things, get things stocked consistently on the shelf, make sure the line was managed. The people in line seemed to be having fun too. There were people walking around passing out trading cards. Doug, the other owner, was actually in the line chatting with people for a while too. Josh was as well. Josh was downstairs. I didn't even get to talk about the tent. Mega 64 was there. I got to meet them. That was a dream come true for me. Legitimately, I love those guys so much. The creators of Shantae, Matt and Aaron Bozon were there. I'd never met them before. They were super nice. The creators of River City Girls were also there. It was a really cool event. And one thing that I have a lot of hope for as well, that some people in line that I chatted with too, we're hoping that Limited Run finds ways to make more events happen in the store. You know, when they do, maybe they'll do midnight releases or a weekend release for a game, where they bring in a creator or something like that to come sign a game or do a talk or even just chat with people about a video game. I think having a place like this in a state that's not LA or Chicago or New York, just like it's in North Carolina. I've never been to North Carolina before. It was a lot of fun. It was beautiful. It probably means a lot to the people that live in that city too, to have a store like this there. So all I can really say is that I hope that they get the chance to open more, or that you get to go, because it was such a lovely experience. It really was. And I know even the people that got into the store too didn't get to spend a ton of time there because the line was huge. It was insane. But if you get the chance to go, hopefully you get to spend some time in there, soak in the setting, get some cool games, trade in some stuff, learn something new, play the crane machine, win or lose, have some fun, listen to the music, just enjoy it. I've been talking forever about this store. If you're still here, thank you. Want to open some games with me? Now, to freak all of you out, I got Costume Quest 2. It's a very adorable little RPG from Double Fine, and it never came out on Switch. I got Blossom Tale, which is like a Zelda-style adventure classic game. I already have this digitally, but wanted it physical. I got Celeste, as I already told you before, which does have a full manual in here. I got Danmaku Unlimited 3, which I've already bought on mobile and digitally on Switch, which also has a manual and a sweet, just incredible soundtrack. Even if you don't go play the game, please go listen to the tunes. And then I got To the Moon, which I've been recommended a billion times by people. And so I'm finally gonna find out why people cry their eyes out to this game. I got this Mother Earthbound Beginning soundtrack, which has a full little like sleeve in here that has lyrics, and it has actual like clay models of enemies and characters. It's super cool. I love it. It was only $10. Now, I've never played this game before, but I bought this Valhalla Cyberpunk Bartender action game collector's edition because it was super pretty, and I couldn't not leave with it. It was beautiful. I tried playing this on the plane ride home, but then I just ended up getting super sleepy and took a nap because planes, am I right? And then I also couldn't believe it that they had extra copies of the Yooka-Laylee Nintendo 64. I think it's a Kickstarter edition because it says KS on the back. I'm not exactly sure. But I now own a physical copy of Yooka-Laylee, which I didn't own. Well, I mean, I have a PlayStation 4 version, but I didn't have a Switch version. And so this has like a full N64 style box. Like even like the top and the bottom And the sides are all colored like the red, green, blue, and the yellow. So if you get the chance, if you like what you see, and you find yourself in North Carolina, go check out the limited run shop. See, you might find something cool in there. And at the very least, I think you're gonna absolutely die for the environment. The classic trailers that they're playing on the monitors, the crane machine, the video wall that they have before you even walk in the store. There's so much detail, so much care that they put into this store, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. And I want to thank Limited Run for actually just even flying me out there in general again. I understand how incredibly special and privileged of a thing that is that I got to do, and it just meant a lot to be able to be there and experience it and chat with the employees and the customers and to bump into people that recognized me, which is still blew my mind away. If you're watching this video and you were there and said hey to me, like, that meant so much to me. It was amazing, so thank you. And I really hope you had a good time. So if you were there, let me know in the comments down below. If you want to go check this place out, drop that as well. I'll leave a link in the description so that way you can find where the store actually is in Cary, North Carolina, if you want to go check it out with their hours and all that jazz. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, why don't you go ahead and pop on those 90s tinted glasses and click that subscribe button, because let me tell you, it looks good. And then ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we release a new video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Zion from Nintendo Life. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time. And I also just remembered I bought Clannad! They had Clannad!